Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. And as we progress into Mythic Week and finally full season 1, which is what I'm personally calling it, we are seeing the final round of buffs, nerfs, and everything going into that. They did promise a rework. This is typical from Blizzard. The next time that we get a rework, unless something is completely broken, typically we see after the Race to World First or towards the end of the Race to the World First. We never kind of see that happen in between. I mean, that'd be a hell of a buzzkill for the Race to World First. You imagine farming all of those characters and then suddenly something just gets nerfed out of the sun. However, something to take a note from, and this is more of like a message from like a casual player, or maybe not casual is the right word, maybe like semi hardcore, I don't know what I am, but like mid-core player basically. Always don't look at a buff or a nerf as being such a big impact. For example, if you're playing something like I don't know, I'm just going to pick a random class here. Let's just say Arcane Mage. People are going absolutely off the charts at the moment with Arcane Mage. It's looking really, really good. People are loving life, and it plays really, really well, right? That's what we like about Arcane Mage right now. However, just because it's had a nerf technically here, it doesn't mean that it's going to be an overall, compared to everything else, an overall dramatically decrease of a nerf. I would always recommend you go ahead and join the Discord for that class and check out some of the hardcore players in there that know everything inside and out, ups and down. What we're going to go over today is just kind of a breakdown of the buffs and nerfs and what they are. And notably, the buffs are the same. Even if something's buffed, it does not technically mean that it's going to be dramatically increased. For example, if we take Enhanced with Shaman, when the expansion first came out, Tempest was super broken, so Enhanced with Shaman was off the charts. They nerfed Tempest, which put Elemental ahead because it didn't rely on Tempest so much. However, even though they've still tried to buff enhancement, notably last one, and I think there is a buff in here for the Enhancement Shaman, it still hasn't quite reached the capacity of the Elemental Shaman. So even though you're seeing a buff, it doesn't technically mean it's overly insane or whether it's going to actually put your class to rank 1. However, if you're like me and you're playing mid-core, you're just happy to play the game, get as high as you can in Mythic Plus, you're not looking to push rank 1 or go to MDI or anything, it shouldn't really matter too much. You know, carry on enjoying your game, be aware of the changes because it could be that you're going to play a different talent or something. However, it doesn't overly mean that you're going to be completely scrapping that character, so don't think that way. That is not the way to think about this. So with all of that being said and that little disclaimer out there, let's go ahead with the class changes. So DK. So this is just a specific change to the hero talent. So the Vampiric Strike chance to trigger increase to 25% was 10%. The Frenzied Bloodthirst damage of Death Coil and Death Strike is increased by 5% per stack, was 4, so just an increase by 1%. And the Visceral Strength gained is increased by 2%. Awesome. Amazing. And that is across the board with anybody that can play the Sanilin, however you pronounce it. And then specifically for blood, Vampiric Strike damage increased by 20%, and Infliction of Sorrow deals 50% of the remaining damage over time. Damage was 10%. Havoc Demon Hunter fixed an issue that caused I-beam damage to be reduced beyond 1 target instead of 5. Fixed an issue, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see actually. I mean, DH damage isn't, it's good, it's not spectacular, but it's good. So when that comes live, it's going to be interesting to see whether good becomes great or whether it just stays in the good range. Fixed an issue to prevent I-beam from benefiting from isolated praise damage bonus. Fixed an issue that presented, basically I-beam has been useless, so they've just fixed I-beam. We got it, Blizz. You have actually fixed it. Balance Druid, all damage increased by 6%. Amazing. Finally. Star Sedge damage increased by 16%. Amazing. Star Fall damage increased by 20%. Not affected in PvP, okay, but in PvE, that's going to be nice. Alun's Chosen, Lunar Cooling increased Starfire's damage, so its primary target by 80% was 65%. The bonus remains at 50% in PvP. I mean, if that came into PvP, that would be quite broken, I would assume. Feral, blood, talons, and lion strength no longer increases the damage of rampant ferocity. We do have a development note saying that in response to feedback that this change reduced the value of maintaining rip and complicated using blood talons in AoE. We are reverting this change. Amazing, they're actually listening. That's really, really good. All abilities got buffed by 3%. Rip damage increased by 6%. Ferocious bite damage increased by 3%. Frenzy regen increased by 10%. Druid of the Claw, Ravage damage increased by 3%. Now, this is a feral buff. However, if you're playing Bresto and you're playing like the kitty weave thing, whatever you want to call it, this also will apply to you. So this is quite nice that we're seeing this. So hopefully Resto damage is going to be increased as well, I guess. Resto, all healing increased by 8%. Wrath increased, Starfire increased, and Star Surge by 20%. Amazing. Evoker. Disintegrating damage increased by 10%. What? That's increased? Holy. Devastation, Eternal Surge damage increased by 10%. I mean, I feel like they're really trying to get away from the augmentation evoker. Like, I don't know whether they've realized it's a mistake or something, but Diva is getting an insane buffs over the last few patches. So it's going to be interesting to see whether comps are going to favor the devastation more than the augmentation. However, augmentation still has its place with the buffs. They're just wild, so it would be interesting to see. Mage, Living Bomb, Explosion Visual now only plays on the unit at the Living Bomb rather than each unit individually. I mean, that's a nice change. I can't tell you how many times you get an FPS drop when Fire Mages spam that Living Bomb like that. That is so annoying, but it's nice to see that they fixed that. Arcane, Sun Fury, the meteorite damage reduced by 15%. Burden of power damage bonus reduced to 20 was 30%. Burden of power damage from Arcane Barrage reduced by 10%. Fire all damage up by 6. Living Bomb damage increased by 25. Mistweaver all healing increased by 3%. Tiger Palm damage increased by 15%. And Rising Sun Kick damage increased by 15%. Windwalker darting, Hurricane's passive trigger rate reduced by 50%, and it now reduces the global cooldown by 0.25 seconds. Was 0.5 seconds. Okay, not too bad. Holy all healing reduced by 6%. Holy. Judgment damage increased by 60%. Crusader striking damage increased. Hammer of Wrath increased. Avenging Crusade transfer amount reduced by 200 to 260 was 420. Holy, that's insane. Holy Prism single target damage increased by 100%, and the area effect damage increased by 50%. Right, damage reduced by, I mean, that does kind of make sense, right? That was by OP. But anyways, Shadow Priest, all damage increased by 6%, and Psychic Link now inflicts 25% of its direct damage to targets affected by the vampiric touch was 30%. So that's a 5% reduction on the Psychic Link. However, you did get a damage buff of 6%, so overall, I guess it's not too bad. But AoE situations just slightly nerfed by 5%, but overall you're increased by 6%, so it's kind of transferred the damage, I guess. Outlaw, all abilities increased by 4%, dispatch damage reduced by 10%, melee auto attack damage reduced by 8%. The Within Season 1 2-set bonus now grants listed abilities a 35% chance to deal 30% increased damage to a shadow, was 20% and 15%. The Wall Within 4-set between the eyes increased to 15 per stack up to 4 was 6 for 3. Enhanced with Shaman, all abilities increased by 4%. Witch Doctor's Ancestry now reduces the cooldown of feral spirits by 1 second whenever you gain a Maelstrom stack, was 2 seconds. That's not too bad. It's a little bit of a nerf, but I guess that's going to make it feel like you're playing going to make it feel nicer. It's going to reset, obviously it's 50% slower, but it's going to make it feel nicer because it was basically you were just spamming the button like 24/7. And the 2% bonus increases the damage of Strong Strike, Lava Lash, Ice Strike, and Crash Lightning. 10% was 6%. Oh, increased it to 10%. Okay, nice. Resto, just the damage is increased. I mean, that was kind of given. Every other healer's got that buff, so they should as well. Warlock, Demonology, Demon Bolt damage increased by 20%. Pact of the Thing summoned 45%. Failguard damage increased by 15%. Distractional damage increased by 6%. The Rift damage is increased, and the channel is increased. I still don't think this is going to overpower Affliction, but it's getting pretty close. Warrior, Colossus, Mountain of Muscle, and Scars increased damage dealt by 5%, was 4%. Colossus damage dealt by Demoralizing Demolition 2 initial strikes increased by 20%. Thunderblast is increased by 6%. Arms, the Blade Storm damage reduced by 10%. Okay, dude. Fury Warrior, the Blade Storm damage reduced by 10%, and Odin's Fury damage reduced by 15%. Mountain Thane, Strength of the Mountain increased. Bloodthirsty and Rampage damage by 20%. They're trying to push us into Mountain Thane. However, like I said at the disclaimer at the beginning, I don't know how much of a change this will be. Fury's already looking OP. However, I don't know whether that's going to bring Fury all the way down to the bottom or not. Now, I'm not going to go through the PvP talents, mostly because I don't play PvP, and I would love to learn PvP, and eventually I think that's something that I will do, and once I do that, I will be able to read them out to you guys and actually have a comment on them, but I don't, so there's not much point in me doing that. But also in this weekly reset, they have reworked a bunch of trinkets. So the Arakara trinket primary stat reduced by 5%. The Candle King absorb increased. That's quite nice, actually, to be fair. Cinder Stain primary stat increased by 5% and absorb increased. The Cyril effect increased. This one had to be increased. Like, this trinket was terrible. Like, there was no point of even having it in your bags. Like, just throw it away straight away. Hopefully with this increase, it's going to be quite nice. Marauder's Toll, the verse effect increased by 8%. Overclocked Gear Rang Launcher on use damage increased by 10%. The Refracting Aggressive Module absorb increased. They've just reworked a bunch of them, which is pretty nice to see. There aren't really any other noticeable ones apart from this one, the Arakara. This one was super good, and also this one, the Shadow Binding Ritual. So if you didn't have the Arakara, you would take the Shadow Binding. It's just like the next one, but I guess they've nerfed them both by 5%, so they're going to be pretty much on par with each other again. I'm not too sure about healing trinkets. Like, this is another Delve one that looked quite good, so I guess that may change slightly. They seem to have changed a lot of the tanking trinkets to increase like the absorb, which is quite nice. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. With that one, they have fixed a huge amount of bugs. Now, this may already be live, so this may be old news, but you may feel like your character is actually playing a bit better. That'll be why. So, like, for example, Vengeance, the Shattered Soul missing will no longer display for allies. Feral fixed a bug preventing Ferocious Bite from damaging crowd-controlled targets. Devastation fixed an issue where Mass Disintegrate was not benefiting properly from Incandescent Titan Wrath. Cycle of Life no longer accumulates healing if done. Fixed an issue causing Jade Bonds increase to the Soothing Breath. Prop Valley fixed an interaction causing Judgment to trigger Righteous cooldown, reducing when Bastion of Light was active. Fixed an interaction causing Bastion of Light stacked to not be consumed when Shimmering Light was active. So yeah, they've just went through and fixed an absolute truckload of little things. And one other notable thing for this week, just to make you all aware, if you haven't already seen it, they've identified that there was finally an issue with the Valorsteins. Basically, the way it should work is it used to be character specific. Because what used to happen is you had to max upgrade an item. Once you did that, then all your characters would then have a discount. However, with the new Warbound system, the way it should work is if you've got a 606 helm on character 1, character 2 has a 603, then you should have a Valor Stone discount for character 2 from character 1. So that should now technically be working from this next reset going forward. But I guess we're going to be seeing and reporting back if it doesn't work, because this is Blizz. They say they've got a fix which probably works on their private servers. However, when they move it over, sometimes that doesn't always come to fruition. So it will be interesting to see. But that is it from me, guys. I hope you have enjoyed my beautiful rambling for the last 15 minutes or so. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're still here at this point, then definitely I'm expecting a sub from you. But I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.